The second one, and to me, is way more inappropriate than the first one.
Yes.
And language is kind of crazy, and it's probably the Marvel movie, other than of course Deadpool, which we'll talk about later and in the next episode, where I'm just kind of like, who's this for? Baby Groot? It seems like that's for kids, and like, but then the sex jokes and the language are pretty horrible.
I wouldn't say horrible. I would say it's crass.
It would have been rated R in the 80s.
No.
I think so.
No.
I think so. I also think it'd be more funny if it was rated R. Let Chris Pratt be Chris Pratt. Welcome back to another episode of Is This for Kids? I am Jonathan Bearded Blevins.
I'm Katie, MrsRuvi.
And today we are going to talk about pre-Blip Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Pre-Blip. There's like 4 bajillion movies in the whole Marvels.
Movies.
It's so many. So just like we did with Star Wars, we're going to try to break this down into manageable chunks for you. So you just watched us talk about the Marvels, the brand newest of them all. And now we're going to be talking about the pre-Blip Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this is 2008's Iron Man through 2019 Endgame.
Yes, and if you don't like that we're doing this in only 2 episodes, or 3 if you count the Marvels episode, blame Ruvi and the entire team, because I thought we should tackle every single Marvel movie individually.
And I truly believed you would all die of boredom because we'd be saying virtually the same thing over and over.
It'll probably be the end of the podcast. So
be the end of it, yeah. John's trying to kill the podcast.
You get 10 points.
Hey!
Well done. You get
Thank
10
you.
points, and I get -5.
Excellent.
But before we talk about the pre-Blip Marvel movies, I have to ask you what your favorite Marvel movie is.
My favorite pre-Blip Marvel movie?
No, all time.
All time.
All time.
Answer is the same. Infinity War.
Infinity War.
Yes.
Now, I, as I've mentioned in the Marvels episode, am not a Marvel expert. I've seen 90% of them, and I've probably seen 60% of the TV shows on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Not an ad yet, or probably ever. Call us. So that said, like, I don't know if this is pre or post Blip.
Okay.
I think it's pre. But my favorite is Winter Soldier.
That is pre-Blip.
It's because it takes place in World War II.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's basically a spy movie, and spy movies are awesome. And Captain America is by far and away the best Marvel character.
Captain America is my favorite Marvel character by far.
Yes.
Whenever I play Fortnite with my husband, even though this is crossing universes, I'm always Wonder Woman, and then he puts on the Captain America skin, and we play together.
Okay,
we look so cute.
Yeah, that's adorable.
We are the cutest.
Do they? She's DC.
She's DC. Like that would not work.
But don't they sometimes ever
have
meet?
the crossovers? I don't know.
Have they never met?
Probably in the comic books. But
yeah, I'd love to read comics, but
I'm not a comic book person.
Okay.
I like the movies, but that's me.
I would love to, like, Marvel versus Capcom. That video game
is
for
fun.
Dreamcast is unbelievable. And they have all the Marvel characters, and they have Capcom characters, and then they have, I'm pretty sure they also have some DC characters. Could be wrong there, but it was.
I don't remember.
Oh, that game was unbelievable.
Yeah,
anyway,
we had it for Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
I want to see Spider-Man and Batman teaming up. Is all I'm saying.
Spider-Man and Batman. Okay.
Yeah, like in a movie.
Yeah, but like in the end, Batman would eat Spider-Man because bats eat spiders.
Okay.
All right.
So Marvel Cinematic Universe pre-Blip.
Pre-Blip. So let's just kind of, there's so many movies to go through. I don't want to go through them one by one, but like let's kind of truncate them by character. So
this is going to be hard, but you're going to do a great job.
I'm going to do the best I can. Forgive me.
Because I think the movies are so different.
They are. But like if you keep them this, so like first of all, the first one to come out was Iron Man. So we're looking at the Iron Man movies. We're talking 1, 2, and 3. Iron Man, Tony Stark starring what's his name? The guy with the thing with the glasses. You know.
Are you trying to get me to guess
Robert Downey Jr.?
Oh, I was like, are you trying to get me to guess like his
couldn't get his name. My brain just
Robert Downey Jr., who has a house somewhere near here, but I'm not going to share where because I don't want to dox him.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you know, don't you think everybody else knows?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay. Hi, Robert. Nice to meet you. We're already friends. You remember from the time.
Oh,
I have
you
your
do
number.
that.
It's
yeah.
fine. Anyway. All right. So we're talking about the Iron Man movies. What do you think as far as whether or not those are appropriate for kids? What do you think?
So I think they're all different. I think Iron Man 1 is way more appropriate than Iron Man 2 and 3 for kids.
Okay.
The language amps up. The sex jokes amp up. The adult humor in general in 2 and 3 amp up. And I think 1 is probably one of the more appropriate movies for kids in general in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe.
All right. So what kind of age group would you give that?
Okay, so here's my biggest thing with the Marvel movies is and this also just could be like that I'm weird. I think that they should be enjoyed and appreciated in order when kids are old enough to watch them.
Okay.
And so if you're old enough, like let's say I say Iron Man 1 is cool for 8, 9, 10-year-olds. But if the next 3 movies aren't, why wouldn't you just wait a couple years until they're 10, 11, or 12 and then just watch them all and have so much fun watching those movies with your kids? That's kind of like where my brain goes.
Okay.
So I would say Iron Man 1, probably like 8, 9, or 10. Fine, totally fine. Iron Man 2 and 3 for me, like 12, probably.
I had the Iron Man movies in the 10 plus range for me for the same reasons that you're talking about, but there is a lot of language and sex jokes, especially in 2 and 3. In 3 particularly, there's drugs and alcohol that are a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
But 1 I felt like was still a little intense. There's war crimes. There's being like the psychological warfare. It just felt a little bit too intense. And also, I don't think little kids would understand it. So I would say Iron Man 10 plus.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. So you, for the first time ever, I say 8 or 9 for the first one, and you're going 10 plus. So
Yeah, because I'm
not always the prude.
He's really worried about that.
I'm not worried about it, but do you know what I'm saying though?
Yeah.
Do you hear what I'm saying when I say like, why would you start them if you can't? It's like I just read Harry Potter to my kids, the first and second book, and towards the end of the second book, it gets kind of dark, and then I remember like the third, fourth, and fifth, it just gets way dark, and I was like, now I can't read these to my kids for another couple years. My oldest is 8, and so now we're taking a break. It's like, why would I have just not waited until they were old enough to read all of them together?
Well, because,
you know,
well, here's the thing. Books are different than movies because books take longer to read. And then you can stop a book if it gets scary. You can walk away from it. But like with movies, if you watch all 3 Iron Mans back to back, that's an entire day of sitting on the couch watching a movie. Like, chill out, okay? Just deep breaths.
Watch them all. Take a month off of work and marathon the Marvel Cinematic Universe pre and post split.
All right.
Okay, so you're saying 10 plus for Iron Man. I'm saying like 8 for the first one and 10 plus for the second.
Captain America movies.
See, I just think the Captain America movies like aren't that fun for kids because there's a lot of history going on. He's a character that I think adults will appreciate a lot because of his sense of humor and his like quirkiness that you're not really going to understand if you're a kid. You're just going to be like, this guy's kind of lame.
Yeah.
But as an adult, you're like, oh, it's wholesome.
It's so cute.
So for those ones, plus World War II's happening, there are some questionable, weird, awkward scenes with Captain America. Really, throughout all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's a couple of weird things that he does, even though he is a great, wholesome character. I'm gonna say 10 or 11 and up for the Captain America movies.
Okay, I have it at 8 plus.
No way!
I also think, like you said, I think that it's appropriate for 8 plus. I think it will be boring for 8-year-olds. I think it's more of an adult movie than a kid movie. And just like not that means that it's necessarily inappropriate or whatever. It's just the interest level won't be there. So I think it's appropriate to watch if you're 8 or under, or sorry, 8 or older, but you won't be interested until probably 13, 14. I don't know.
See, so we're both on the same page so far. No need to start Marvel until post 10.
Oh, good gravy. I said 8. All right, the Thor movies.
Okay, first of all, Thor Ragnarok is an unbelievable movie.
So good.
That I don't know if people
That's
knew.
That's post-Blip though. So
it is post.
Oh wait,
I know.
It's not actually.
I thought it was.
It's pre. It's pre. Because that's where Hulk is coming back from when he lands in Doctor Strange's house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, if you're like all the Thors in general, that one was one I don't know if anyone expected it to be as good as it was.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Like I remember going to the theaters and seeing that movie and being like, this movie is just going to be lame, but like it's Thor, I have to see it. And then that's like the top 5 Marvel movie for me. I'm going to say that Thor is very similar to Iron Man and like the jokes that it tells and some of the crude humor. But it's a little more playful. Loki's not that scary. So I'm noticing a trend here for me, but I'm going to say like 10 and up for Thor.
Okay, which is why we're doing them all as one thing and not different episodes.
Because they're all going to be 10 and up.
And they're all for you anyway.
Or 12, depending.
So I would say the first Thor is boring. It was very boring.
What?
Yeah. The first Thor is serious Thor. Nobody likes serious Thor.
That's true.
It's before they realized that they needed to be funny. So I think that that's going to be very boring for kids. It's appropriate for 8 and up, but I think it's boring for 8-year-olds. However, Thor Ragnarok, and then there's another one afterwards that's in post-Blip. Those Thor movies, super fun. Dark World, those are more fun. And so I think that a kid 8 and up would enjoy that one as well. Not a lot of language, not a lot of blood. It's mostly comic book violence. So I think 8 and up is totally good for the Thor movies.
So now's the time I get to bring up this awesome study that I found from Brigham Young University.
Yes.
And I read it. I didn't get to read the whole entire study, but I read the summaries of the study.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like, there's so many factors, so I don't know how accurate this can be, because you don't know what the family life is like and whatever. But they showed, they had these preschool kids, and they had some kids who watched Marvel movies and comic book. It wasn't just Marvel, it was comic book movies in general with violence, and then some that didn't. And they found that on average, the only thing that they took away from those movies is the violent part. It's just like fighting. Mm-hmm. That the hero dynamic, or like the helping the underdog, helping an old lady cross the street type of stuff, like, they're not picking that up from these movies at such a young age. Mm-hmm. They're just picking up that I want to fight. And that's anecdotally true for me. Like, when I was a kid, I'd watch Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, and my brothers and I would just fight.
Right.
And then we got in trouble because we would hit each other too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why when you're saying 8, and my oldest is 8, I'm just like, yeah, the only thing my kid would do is just hit my son even more if he watched these movies.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm leaning towards like 10 and up instead of 8.
Whenever somebody cites a study about preschool behavior to me, I always think to myself, there have been multiple studies on children who attend preschool as opposed to children who do not attend preschool that indicate any benefit that comes from going to preschool has been lost by grade 3. So like any knowing their letters, knowing their anything, like the things that they learn in preschool that puts them ahead of the curve, that they cite those studies of why kids need to go to preschool, those are lost by grade 3 because parental involvement is so much more important. Your environment is so much more important than what you saw, what you consumed, what school you went to. So to me, while that study is probably valid and true, the question is, by 3rd grade, have they learned something else, and what were their parents teaching them? What are the parents' interactions? Because just straight after, they are going to fight each other. But when you talk to young boys about fighting, you say, hey, you were made strong. You are strong for a reason. That reason is not to pick on your little brother. It's to be a protector. It's to be and so you can when you get them to display those behaviors, you can channel them correctly.
I want you to help me channel that. We do that to my oldest all the time, and he still just will not stop.
Oh, I don't know if you heard. Parenting is just a long slog of saying the same
sure.
thing
don't
over
you
and
think,
over for
though,
25 years.
So for me, and again, this is all anecdotal, but for me, it's probably not great for my 8-year-old to watch Marvel right now, because he will just increase his hitting behavior of his brother.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that hasn't been my experience, but you can try.
That's because you have girls.
I have 2 boys, and I have the same number of sons that you have.
I know, but they're how old are your boys?
13 and 9.
Do they fight?
Not really.
See? It's because they have sisters who are nice to them and they hang out with.
No, they are not nice to them. They dress them up in skirts.
That's what my cousin did to me.
I know.
I turned out okay.
It's
arguably. Okay, what's next?
Moving right along. All right, so what about the Spider-Man movies? And now we're talking Tom Holland Spider-Man.
What?
Because for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we are not including
Tobey Maguire.
That's the Sony.
I don't care. It was awesome.
Okay, that's a
Not
different episode. Different episode, right?
All right, so
So we're talking Tom Holland Spider-Man.
I have a pop quiz for you first.
Oh, gosh.
Do you know how old Tom Holland is?
He's like 27. I don't know.
That is incorrect. Do you know how old Tom Holland is?
How old is Tom Holland? He's 27.
Who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
How did you know he was 27?
Because I thought he was cute and had to look up whether or not I was going to go straight to hell for that.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Don't
I
act
have the
like
wrong
you didn't do it too.
guy. I have the wrong guy. Do you know how old Andrew Garfield is?
Oh, I think he's my age.
He's 40 years old.
Yeah.
That is old. I'm 36, okay? I'm close to
That was
old.
the Instagram reel. Do you see it right there? Did you see it?
But seriously, didn't Andrew Garfield play a high school kid?
Yeah.
That's insane.
He's got a baby face.
For all of our 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80-year-old listeners, you are amazing. You are young. You are incredible. You can do anything. I was blown away, though, that he played a high school and he's 40 years old. So,
well, he wasn't 40 when he played him.
In his 30s.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, Spider-Man, Tom Holland.
Mm-hmm.
10 to 11 and 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm putting the Spider-Man movies in as a middle school set of movies, mainly because Spider-Man, the character, is closer in age to the kids.
Right.
So, like, a lot of times when kids see adults doing a behavior, you can easily say that's adult behavior. You cannot emulate that. But when a high school kid is doing it, it's a little harder to say, like, that's out of bounds for you. And then and though it's funny and some of the best movies, and your middle schooler will love them.
Yeah.
There's masturbation jokes. There's that kind of thing that you kind of want to be able to have that conversation. If you're not ready to have a masturbation conversation with your kid, you probably should skip that one.
Yeah, but that's in one of those Spider-Man movies. Mm-hmm. So I think that my theme is going to be when your kid is 12 years old, start watching the Marvel movies with them.
Okay.
And do it together and have a great experience. That's like the moral of the story for me so far.
Yeah, I think my oldest was 12, and then like everybody, because it's always like whatever age your oldest is, and the youngest you just got to deal, you know? Yeah. So, okay, we're not terribly far off. How about the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Okay.
Arguably the best franchise within the Marvel MCU.
I agree. Chris Pratt is amazing. He's a hero. Groot is just adorable. And what? Are you going to cry?
No. When Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out, we were flat broke. But like I would save all of our money just to take my kids to see Guardians of the Galaxy like 3 times that summer, because Baby Groot was all the serotonin I could deal with. Like I was like, I need the opening sequence of Baby Groot dancing to Mr. Blue Sky, and the soundtrack is so good. So we listen to Mr. Blue Sky in the car all the time. Yeah, it's great.
That is awesome.
Go ahead.
I'm with you. I think it's one of the best franchises within. Like just great stuff.
Soundtracks are so good.
Though it's the only movie, all of them, really the second and third.
The third is post-Blip.
So we can't talk about that now. Okay, well, fine. The second one, and to me, is way more inappropriate than the first one.
Yes.
And language is kind of crazy, and it's probably the Marvel movie, other than of course Deadpool, which we'll talk about later and in the next episode, where I'm just kind of like, who's this for? Baby Groot. It seems like that's for kids, and like, but then the sex jokes and the language are pretty horrible.
I wouldn't say horrible. I would say it's crass.
It would have been rated R in the 80s.
No.
I think so.
No.
I think so. I also think it'd be more funny if it was rated R. Let Chris Pratt be Chris Pratt. He's hilarious. So for me, I'm like, I don't know, 14, 15 for the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy is a middle school movie, so 12, like.
So not too far off.
Yeah, you're getting it at a high school movie. I'm putting it at a middle school movie because of the language. And then in Volume 2, there is a implied robot hooker, which is a little bit weird. Like this whole.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a little strange.
It's the first movie in Marvel where I sat down and I was like, whoa. Marvel?
I loved it though, and I took all of my kids to see it. So like at the time that we were seeing it in the theaters, my youngest kid was probably 7, 6, because I didn't have the baby then. Yeah. So it would have been 5 or 6. But he loved it, and it was fun, and all those things were over his head.
100% over his head.
Yeah, way over his head, and it was fine. But for like the kids that are cognizant of it, like if your kid is 8, maybe wait till they're 12. If your kid is 5, you can bring them along. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Okay. I still think, and this is a take I have often in our podcast, that if you just made Guardians of the Galaxy rated R like you did Deadpool, it could be even funnier.
Oh my gosh. I don't love Deadpool for that exact reason, actually. All right. Avengers movies. And we're skipping Ant-Man because there's only 2 of them. But should we do Ant-Man?
I mean, I think we could just say that I think that Ant-Man, it has like weird amount of language in it for a movie that I think is very much supposed to be for kids. Especially like, I think it's the first Ant-Man at the very end. It's absolutely like a scene that kids are just gonna freak out about and love.
Yeah, and there's a kid in the movie.
Right, 100%. So I'm sticking with my normal 10 to 12 for Ant-Man.
Language doesn't bother me, so Ant-Man's at 8.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Ant-Man, you're going 8 or you're going 12?
10 to 12, yeah.
I'm going 8. Okay. Avengers. Now, there's a lot of Avenger range here. You've got the original Avengers. You've got the Age of Ultron is in here. We've got Civil War. And then I'm also putting Infinity War and Endgame in that bucket.
Weirdly, I think, I thought Avengers was, I mean, it's just so fun, first of all. Yeah. To have all the heroes fighting together. and all the banter and all the different scenes where they're talking to one another is absolute gold.
Yeah.
The violence is almost all comic book violence. I guess Thanos like trying to eliminate the human race is pretty bad.
It is,
like from a scary fear thing for kids, but I don't know how realistic that it's gonna hit a kid. You know what I mean? Like I don't think my 8-year-old who would watch it would be like, oh, someone wants to kill everyone.
But he's not killing them. He's like
right,
unexisting them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do think that it has that fear factor that parents should just know exists, but like I don't think it's that crazy. So I think Avengers is actually more for kids than some of the ones we've talked about.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 10, 11, 12.
I would say that Avengers is appropriate. I'm keeping it at the no, I'm gonna go 10. So slightly like old elementary, not quite 8, and that's mainly because of like the death of Spider-Man in Infinity War, or the getting rid of that he doesn't die, he just like disintegrates.
Yeah,
it's terrible, it's heartbreaking. And then some of the darker stuff in like Civil War, about loyalty and the parents, like there's just a lot there that might be a little bit hard for a younger elementary kid, but an older elementary kid would be okay. And for me, the thing that I love most is the very first Marvel movie that I really got into was Infinity War, and it did such a good job of pulling from the other movies without requiring that you have seen them in order to be connected. Like I felt strongly about all of those characters, even if I had never seen Black Widow in a movie before. And it was after that I went and watched all of those movies together, and I think they did a great job of making it accessible for everybody and kind of bringing anybody in who had not before. So those are my favorite movies.
Yeah, I agree. They were super fun. I made sure I saw all of those in theaters.
Yeah. And
I hope this is one of those things where there's probably too many to do this, but like, how they re-released Star Wars and they've re-released Lord of the Rings, like in theaters. Like I hope that when my kid's like 14, that they just start re-releasing Marvel movies so I can just like take my kids to the theater to go see these.
That would be so cool.
But there's so many.
Yeah.
But if they're going to do it to any, I hope they do it with the Avengers.
That's true. I have an idea.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it
All
later.
right. There's just so much content out there for us to navigate as parents.
I'm Jonathan Blevins.
And I am MrsRuvi. Let us help you figure out.
Is this for kids?